First of all, right and wrong boils down to perception. What one person considers right, another person will think it's wrong. So none of us are right or wrong, per se. What matters is what feels right to us. Your intuition is God speaking to you. I firmly believe that. Now, I can rely on my intuition more than I can on anything in this world. When I was younger and heavily influenced by organized religion, I felt fearful and creeped out a lot in church, like nothing about it felt right to me. And I want to make it abundantly clear that I am not shaming anyone for going to church. All of them aren't bad. If the church is what feeds your soul, then you're meant to be there. It doesn't do that for me. Clearly, it doesn't do that for you either. No one should feel torn about loving God or how they choose to do it. When I first started learning about spirituality, I learned quickly that spirituality would bring me closer to God. Do you know why? Because God is within me. Once you get in touch with your true essence, which is God, then your whole life transforms. Organized religion discourages that in a way because it teaches us that we're separate from God, and we aren't. Everything in the world is from the same source. We're all part of it, which means we aren't separate from God. Believing we are separate from God is what started all of our problems in the first place. Here's another thing I want to point out that I hope will help you not feel torn. I know so many people who go to church. They don't miss a service. They pray all the time, and their lives stay in shambles. They'll say, God is in control. Now, they are absolutely correct. God is definitely in control, but what they don't understand is that means they are in control of their lives. God gave them free will, which means they are supposed to make decisions that will improve their lives, not wreck their lives, and not sit around and wait for this man in the sky to come along and make everything okay. When I was of the organized religion school of thought, I begged God to help me. I did nothing to help myself. I just begged and begged God to get me out of one bad situation after another. I took no action and couldn't understand why my prayers weren't being answered. This madness went on for decades. My life got worse. And then I got mad at God, and I would even say that God hated me. That's how ignorant I was. People who are not enlightened tend to confuse praying with begging. Begging sends out a message of desperation and lack. If you do this repeatedly, you only attract more desperation and lack. This is the reason why so many people in organized religion never find wealth, perfect health, and happiness. They never get the memo that they are infinite choice makers, and their choices wreak havoc on their lives. People get fed up after decades of not experiencing any self-improvement, and that's when they start seeking answers, and that's when they land on spirituality. It is very common to feel guilty about choosing to be spiritual versus religious because organized religion teaches people to feel guilty if they stray from what they're supposed to do. If a person strays from something, that means it doesn't feel right and their intuition is pushing them in another direction. Anytime your intuition pushes you towards something, it's not wrong. And there's never any fear when we follow our intuitive sense. I was fearful for the first 30 years of my life because of organized religion. When I realized that my fear was ego-based and not real, I experienced more clarity and more love from God than I ever had. The reason is because organized religion separated me from my source. Plus, I gotta point this out. My spiritual mentors, anyone in the spiritual space, they've never threatened me. They have never made me feel guilty. They have never screamed at me and told me I would be cast into a lake of fire if I sinned. What my spiritual mentors and teachers have done is connect me with God. And when I aligned with my source, I realized I hadn't known God before. I'll conclude with telling you this. Anytime a person acts like God, they are living from a place of love. When we act like God, it doesn't matter where we do it. It certainly doesn't have to be in a church house. I don't go to church, but let me tell you something. This sinner right here sure can act like a saint. So as long as you feel good about yourself, and as long as being more spiritual than religious feels right, there is no room for guilt. Guilt is a made-up emotion that is completely useless. You do what feels right for you and stay away from what feels wrong. You are the expert in your own life, no one else. You decide what's right and what's wrong based on your beliefs about the world and the role you play in it.